both the buyer and the seller to know what's in there?
Right. Well, you know, the offer to purchase is your OTP, is your offer to purchase. That is the written offer that you give to the seller. Now, people don't understand, and I see this often. People make an offer to purchase, and then they decide, oh, actually, you know, I like that other property, and they change their mind. But once the seller accepts that offer to purchase, it's legally binding. It's a legally binding contract, and you can't get out of it that easily without any penalties and repercussions. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
it's very important for the offer to both parties to understand the offer to purchase, unless the offer is for under 250,000 rand, right? Under 250,000 rand, then you are protected by the National Credit Act, that you have got a 5-day cooling off period. And you can change your mind after 5 days. By written notice, you have to give a written notice that you withdrawing your offer and you've changed your mind. But only for properties under 250K. So as you can understand, that doesn't really apply much in the property space, because most properties are over 250,000 rand. You know, so the buyer must understand its legal obligations once it signs an offer to purchase. And the seller as well, once he accepts it, he also can't change his mind. It's very legally binding. And people should be aware of certain clauses in the offer to purchase, so especially the buyer. If the buyer, I don't know if do you understand the 72-hour clause? You know, with the 72-hour clause in the offer to purchase, you make an offer, let's say it's subject to you obtaining a bond. That's a suspensive condition. But if there's a 72-hour clause, that seller has the right to continue marketing his property. And if someone comes along with an offer that does not require a bond, that's a better offer, then the seller can say to the previous buyer, look, I've got a better offer that's now cash. They're not waiting for a bond. Can you better that, or can you match that? And the person says, no, I can't. Then he can go with a better offer. You know? So yeah, just be careful about certain clauses and so on. And if you are an offer, and if you are the buyer, you can put in the special conditions. Try to put in clauses that, you know, that protects you in eventuality. Any questions?
The 72-hour clause, is it only 72 hours, or it's an open clause to say if there is someone else who's offering something better than what you have offered?
It actually means it means that you can advertise your property and continue marketing for as long as that other one is waiting for the suspensive condition. But once you get the new offer, right, you go to your old buyer to say you now have 72 hours in which to come up with a better offer.
Okay.
Yeah. You're giving him 72 hours to match the other offer.
Okay. Edgar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out in terms of the conveyancing fees. I find it strange that the higher price properties, the fee is higher. Does that mean that the work done, if the property is higher priced, is more, then therefore you charge more, or because the higher price, the buyer can afford more, then then you can charge him that more?
Yes, well,
yeah.
Those fees are set by the Law Society. There's a tariff. And the higher the property, the Law Society sets a higher tariff on it. And all transferring attorneys, conveyancing attorneys, you have to charge that tariff that the Law Society sets. We don't come up with those prices.
Okay, but in terms of the work, is the same time, right?
The what?
Or in terms of the work, the time that you need to register the property, irrespective of price, is the work the same? Or I'm just trying to understand how the Law Society came up with those prices. What was the motive to say?
Yeah, no, look, the work can be the same. The work can be less, the work can be more. Each property transaction is completely different. So it doesn't matter. For example, if you come with a property of 200,000, the amount of work in that 200,000 is exactly the same as the amount of work on any higher properties. And just to be clear that the higher the properties, over 1.1 million, what pushes those fees up is the tax, the transfer duty that's payable to SARS. It's not transferring fees. The fees are for, you understand, SARS.
Yeah, no, happy. It's fine. Yeah, you can go to the next one.
You want me to go on to the next question?
I
If I
think
can
there's
just say,
another end there. I don't know who it is.
all right, and if I can just add, as a buyer, before you sign that offer to purchase, make a condition in the offer to purchase to say you want there to be a property inspection on the house, property inspection done. Because that property inspection will see if there are any latent defects, So the property inspection can indicate the latent defects. So when you make the offer to purchase, say, I'm offering it on condition that the property inspection, then I will sign the offer. And then you also check that all patent defects, those that's visible to the eye, are corrected before the property is registered. Protect yourself, in other words, as a buyer. And also as a seller, because you do not want to be sued later on by the buyer. If you as a seller misrepresented or you hid latent defects and you knew about it, when they find out that you hid latent defects, you knew about it, or you ought to have known about it, for 3 years after the transfer, they can actually sue you to fix that latent defect.
Shama?
Hi there. Thanks for the session. I just wanted to ask about the 72 hours clause where if there is an offer in and another offer comes in that's better, for example, if the first offer is, say the seller goes back to the first offer and says, okay, I've got another offer, can you better this? Or, what can you do? Are they obliged to give that opportunity to them if they want longer than 72 hours? So say, for example, they need to get an additional loan or something like that, and it's going to take more than 72 hours. Is the seller okay to say, you know what, if you don't revert back to me in 72 hours, I'm accepting the other one and that's it?
Yeah. Hi, Shama. The thing is, with the 70, you've got 72 hours to make the other offer. If you make the better offer, but let's say, for example, you had to sell your house, because we have many conditions like that to say, I'm making an offer to purchase, but I have to sell my existing house. So now you get a new offer when the person comes and says, look, I don't need to sell my house. I can do this now. So now you go back to the first one and say, you've got 72 hours. In that 72 hours, the first buyer can say, okay, look, I'll buy it without selling my house. And if he can match, I think he doesn't need to, let's say he needs to get the loan, even if you're saying he doesn't need to go and get the loan within 72 hours, but he can say, I'm now going to take it and I will get that. He must commit to a better offer. Do you understand?
Okay, so as long as there's commitment.
Yes, if there's commitment, he doesn't need to necessarily get the additional loan within the 72 hours, but he must make the offer and accept it, and seller must accept to say, I'm going to get a higher loan now. Within 72
and then what
hours,
happens if he doesn't get the loan? Because then you're gonna lose out on the second offer that was better, isn't it?
Well, then, yeah. And then in that case, the seller can then sue him for a breach of contract, because remember the second offer was now a contract. So there's breach of contract. And then the seller can sue him for wasted, for damages, for wasted expenses. And if, for example, he lost out on something and he can quantify how much he's lost, then that second buyer will now be obligated to that damages.
Okay. And then you mentioned the 250,000 where you've got the 5 days as long as you give written notice. Now, how does FLISP influence that? How does FLISP fall into this?
Well, it just all depends on if the offer is for 250,000, okay? That is just a period to say you've got 5 days to change your mind, whether you've got FLISP or whether you don't have FLISP. You don't have 5 days to pay. You've got 5 days in which to change your mind about the contract. The offer to purchase, now I'm withdrawing the offer to purchase, because FLISP, if you make an offer to purchase and you say, I'm making an offer to purchase, I'm waiting for money from FLISP, that's not going to work. You need to make the offer to purchase, and you've got however many, that offer to purchase will state there, look, I've got, you know, you need to pay the transfer fees, or you need to pay because we register properties even before FLISP pays out, you know, FLISP will eventually pay out often after registration, you know, so undertakings are given and so on. So the FLISP doesn't have any bearing on the 250,000 5 days cooling off period.
Okay, okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure.
Bongan.
Okay, thank you. I must be honest, I'm hearing about the 72 hours for the first time this morning. Maybe I've not been paying attention, but I would like to know, the 72 hours, is it 72 working hours or just 72 consecutive hours, working hours or not? That is one.
72 days.
72 days. Yeah. Can you repeat that?
It's a 72 hours. Sorry, 72 hours. Listen, just as an FYI, if you're going to Goliath Attorney's Facebook page, there is a video on where I was on All About Property explaining the 72 hours clause. You know, just afterwards, if you want to go and check it out. Okay. All right, so yeah, on Goliath Attorneys, right? That's my company. So 72 hours, yeah. You decide. You must be careful and you must specify, is it 72 hours, you know, including weekends and public holidays, or excluding? You have to state that in that contract, because little things like that, if you don't say it's 72 hours, you know, working days, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's 72 hours of working days, or does it include weekends and so on? So yeah, you will specify, because sometimes if it's a long weekend, and you're not counting the weekend, it can go into 5 days. You know, there's a long weekend included. So make sure you say either 72 hours, including weekends, or 72 hours excluding weekends. And in that time, your first buyer have to come up with a better offer than your second, because now you as a seller, you've got a right to continue marketing your property until you get a better offer, and this is only actually mainly where there's a suspensive condition attached to the first offer. Suspensive condition meaning I need to get a bond, or suspensive condition meaning I need to sell my existing house. Do you understand? So until that condition is met, there's no contract. It suspends the contract. That's why it's called a suspensive condition. Okay. Understand?
Okay, thank you. Then I will try and access the video. The second question relates to, well, in